Hello my friends and welcome to this video today. So in today's video I want to talk about drones and more specifically about how to improve the quality of your video when it comes to flying around with drones and taking shots with them. I want to explain some tips and tricks how to get nice and cinematic looking shots. So yeah, this video is, as you could imagine, more or less for people who just started out with drones and are new to the drone universe and not for experienced drone flyers out there. So yeah, if you are one of them, feel free to skip this video honestly. But for all the other people out there, stay tuned and let's go. So because this is a beginner tutorial, before we can get started with the real tips and tricks, I quickly want to go over the main controls of your drone, and I just want to explain the three most important controls on your DJI controller in this example. But if you're already familiar with it, you can skip the step. I will put a timestamp somewhere around here in the frame. So let's go with that first. So here's the controller, the normal controller of a DJI drone. And you have basically three main controls for controlling your drone and the camera. To control the gimbal, you have this wheel here in the back. You can turn it to the left and turn it to the right. It has this spring mechanism, so it returns to the neutral position every time you let it go. And this basically puts the gimbal down or up, so you can control your camera if you want to look down or if you want to look up. The other control you have is the left side stick, and please note, these are the standard DJI settings and you can customize that as you wish. So these are the standard control settings when you start up your drone for the first time. So the left side stick here, if you put it up, your drone will go up. If you put it down, your drone will go down. And if you put it to the left, your drone will fly to the left. If you put it to the right, your drone will fly to the right. So basically really simple. The other side stick on the right side is for controlling your drone as well. If you put it forwards, your drone will fly forwards. If you put it backwards, your drone will fly backwards. And if you put it to the left, your drone will rotate in itself to the left. And if you put it to the right, it will rotate to the right. So now that we have discussed the most important controls of your drone, we can start with going over real life flying examples and how to make your shots look more cinematic. So obviously there are near endless of different maneuvers that you can fly with your drone, and I would always recommend just go out and try it out and experience yourself what works good and what works not so good. But there are some tips and tricks that might be important and can improve your results. So let's go over that first. And when it comes to filming or cinematography, there are some things that are pretty similar to photography as well. For example, when you compose your shot, you might want to think about layering your different elements in your picture to get a sense of depth for the viewer later on. In this example, we have this huge mountain in the background, which looks super stunning. But it looks a little bit boring, honestly, because you will not get really a sense of depth and a sense of size when you just look at the two-dimensional footage basically. So what you can do in a situation like this is look around, take a look around, and maybe find something that you can place in the foreground. In this case we have the huge mountain in the background, but we also have this ridgeline, this mountain ridgeline in the foreground, which is much closer to the drone and the camera. And with that you will get a sense of depth. But because we are not just taking a photo but also a video, we can use something different, and this is the so-called parallax effect. So the parallax effect basically describes that when you move around with a camera, or in this case the drone, the background, because it is so far away, will appear pretty static. It will not move a lot, even though the drone might move hundreds of meters or even kilometers, but the background, as I said, will look pretty static. And while this can look good, as I said, it will not give the viewer a sense of depth and a sense of scale for the subject. So in this case, we have this ridgeline in front, and the ridgeline, because it is so much closer to the viewer, or in this case the drone camera, it will appear to move a lot further. You will have a lot of movement in the foreground and just a little bit of movement in the background, and this gives not just a sense of depth to the viewer, but also a sense of three-dimensionality, if you want to call it like that. So I think the parallax effect is one of the most important tools basically that you can use to improve your drone footage. And I will come back to this effect a lot of times in this video. So as I said, think about composing your shot like if you want to take a picture, but yeah, obviously in this case for videos. So yeah, have a foreground, have a background, have maybe even a midground. So yeah, you have an interesting composition that is interesting to look at. So the first move that you can use to create interesting shots is the so-called orbit. And as the name suggests, orbit is basically just a circle around your subject, and you can do this manually pretty easy. So basically, I have my drone here. Basically, you fly in one direction, either right or left. And at the same time, you want to change the rotation of your drone so your subject always stays in the middle of the frame. And honestly, that is not so hard to do, but it will take you a little bit of practice to get a smooth movement and don't have any hard movements in your shot. So yeah, this is nothing too special. But I also mentioned this because the DJI drones have a great built-in feature for doing automatic orbits. And as you can see here, you can basically just select your subject on the touchscreen of your control, and it will automatically recognize your subject, which works just great. I never had any problems with that, honestly. And after that, you can go to POI or point of interest. And it will automatically recognize that you want to fly an orbit around your subject. And then you have this yellow arrows here basically, which goes left and right. And obviously if you go left, you will do a left orbit, and right, you will do a right orbit. But you can also decide how fast you want to circle your object. And this is honestly a great feature, and I use this a lot of times. And as I said, it works pretty fine most of the times. There are some exceptions to that. For example, as you can see in this video clip here, I was pretty low to the ground and the wind speeds were pretty high on this day, and somehow it failed a little bit because it was really shaky, and it always changed the distance to the subject. In this case it was me. I flew around me basically. So it not always works so great, but most of the time it will work pretty good. And it is also great if you want to film yourself. Like for example in this clip, you basically just put your controls away and let the drone orbit you while you do something different. In this case I took photos of the dunes here, and just let the drone fly around me a few orbits to get some nice shots that I could later put, for example, in the YouTube video about this specific location. And here we are back at the parallax effect as well, basically, because as you can see in this example clip where I am in the mountains, you have this kind of reverse parallax effect, if you want to call it like that. I think this is not the professional name for it, but basically in this case the subject in the foreground is pretty static. I am in the middle of the shot, but the background, the huge mountains in the background, they appear to move a lot. As said, it is pretty much the same as I told you in the beginning of the video about the parallax effect, but in a reversed way, if you want to call it like this. So as I said, this is a great way to get great looking shots. And what you can also try is to use a zoom camera when your drone happens to own one. For example, the DJI Air3 has a 3x zoom camera, and this will also give a pretty nice effect and will look a little bit different than the standard wide angle, which gives an interesting view. So I think it is worth trying that out. So the next super simple move that can look pretty great is a reveal shot. So you can do a vertical reveal, for example, like in this video clip where I have basically just flown my drone straight up. It is only one control, but in the beginning of the shot you only have this this forest, basically the trees, because they basically fill up the whole frame. But when I got the drone up higher in the air, the background revealed, which was this beautiful mountain panorama, and it just looked amazing. But the reveal shots are not just possible when you are flying upwards or downwards, but they are also possible when you are flying towards an object, away from an object, or left and right. So you can basically adjust it according to your needs. And obviously you can also combine different movements. Like for example in this shot, I not just went straight towards an object, I also went up at the same time to not collide with this mountain range here, which is pretty obvious why I did this. And again, I'm back at the parallax effect here because, yeah, it is basically also the same. In this shot I just showed you, you can see that the foreground moves really, really far basically. I flew pretty near to this mountain ridge and the background just appeared to be static. And as I said, this is also the parallax effect, which looks good. And yeah, I will say the word parallax pretty often in this video, I just see. So the next thing that you can try out is close proximity flying. And this is a little bit more, not complicated, but a little bit more scary, I believe. Because yeah, as the name suggests, you are flying pretty close to subjects. For example, in this shot, I flew pretty close to the trees, but it will give sometimes pretty amazing shots that, yeah, really look amazing and that you only can get with a drone. And basically there's no other way because a drone is super small. You can navigate through trees, for example, that you could do in no other way, or at least I couldn't imagine of any other way to do it. So yeah, this is pretty cool as well. As I said, it is a little bit scary, but the drone sensors, they are pretty good in avoiding obstacles. However, I still suggest being really careful here. Always have your drone inside and always still keep an eye on your drone to make sure it will not collide with anything else. As I said, especially when you fly over water or rivers in this case, yeah, your drone would be pretty much doomed if you would crash it. So yeah, as I said, it is a little bit more scary, but yeah, it is also pretty simple because the drone moves really slowly and it only moves in one direction as well. And you don't have to put many different controls in at once to get amazing shots. So yeah, as I said, you can try out close proximity flying to get beautiful shots. So I talked a lot about, yeah, getting a foreground in your image to create depth, and this is not always possible, I know that. So what else can you do? What you might want to consider if you don't have any real foreground in your image, to place something that is moving by itself. For example, in this case, I have this train here in the foreground. It's not really the foreground, but I have the train in the shot which moves. You can place, for example, a street with moving cars in your image. So yeah, you just have something that moves fast and something that moves slow. And this is also a way to create some nice looking videos and pictures. And of course, there are near limitless ways to fly your drone and create beautiful cinematic shots out there. So just try it out, go out and look for beautiful compositions and just try out new things. So with this said, there is a lot more to talk about when it comes to flying drones and create beautiful shots. And for that reason, I have a video series over on my channel. I have already 2 parts where I explain different things when it comes to drones. As I said, also for people who are just starting out with drones, and I want to create even more videos. As I said, this video was about flying drones, but there is a lot more to talk about and the video would just be too long. So if you are interested in this topic, feel free to check out my channel. I've linked a few videos down in the description as well. You might want to consider to subscribe as well to stay up to date. And yeah, as I said, there is a lot more to talk about and I really enjoy doing this. So stay tuned. And if you have watched this video, thank you so much for doing so. And for now, I wish you a great day, a great week. And with that said, I see you in next week's video, hopefully. And see you then. Goodbye.